Imagine being thrown in jail for claiming you're yourself. Imagine being labeled insane, drugged in a psychiatric hospital, all while desperately screaming that you are who you say you are. This nightmare became reality for one man, while another lived his stolen life in complete luxury for over 3 decades. This is the shocking true story of Matthew Kierans and the most twisted identity theft case in American history. The year was 1988. Two men, both homeless, both struggling, stood side by side at a hot dog cart in Albuquerque, New Mexico. One was William Donald Woods, a transient man trying to survive. The other was Matthew David Kierans, a 22-year-old runaway with a troubled past and several warrants for his arrest. Kierans had run away from his adoptive home at just 16 years old. By the time he met Woods, he was already on the run from the law, having stolen a car in San Francisco and skipped court dates in Oregon. He needed a way out, an escape from his criminal record that was catching up with him. At some point during their brief time working together, Kierans made a decision that would alter both their lives forever. He obtained Woods's personal information, possibly stealing his wallet. What happened next would stretch across more than 3 decades and become one of the most elaborate identity theft schemes in modern history. By 1990, just 2 years after they met, Kierans secured a fraudulent Colorado identification card bearing Woods's name and date of birth. Matthew David Kierans effectively ceased to exist. William Donald Woods, or at least the identity of William Donald Woods, was reborn with a new face, a new life, and sinister new intentions. The double life. While the real William Woods continued his life of struggle, moving from place to place, often homeless and barely surviving, Kierans thrived under his stolen identity. He didn't just use Woods's name for small crimes or temporary gains. He built an entire life. Using genealogy website Ancestry.com, Kierans researched Woods's family history in Kentucky. He obtained a fraudulent birth certificate, a social security number, driver's licenses, and insurance, all in William Woods's name. The transformation was complete and meticulous. Kierans got married as William Woods. He had a son who carried the surname Woods. He opened bank accounts, applied for loans, purchased vehicles, and established credit. He moved from state to state, always as Woods, building a resume and a reputation. By 2013, Kierans landed what would become his most impressive achievement under the false identity, a high-level administrator position at the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. Working remotely from his home in Heartland, Wisconsin, Kierans earned over $140,000 annually. His access to the hospital's computer systems was described as the highest it could be. He was the key administrator of critical systems, a trusted employee with security clearance, all while being a complete fraud. Between 2014 and 2022, Kierans took out over $250,000 in loans from credit unions in Iowa, all using Woods's identity. He purchased cars, obtained lines of credit, and lived comfortably in suburban Wisconsin with his family, completely undetected. Meanwhile, the real William Woods struggled through life. He bounced between jobs, experienced periods of homelessness, and had no idea that someone across the country was living an entirely different existence under his name, accumulating massive debt and creating a complex financial history that Woods knew nothing about. For over 30 years, Matthew Kierans successfully maintained this double life. He attended parent-teacher conferences as William Woods. He filed taxes, renewed licenses, and went through background checks for his high-security hospital job, all without raising suspicion. It was a masterclass in deception, and it seemed like it would never end. The nightmare unfolds. Everything changed in August 2019. William Woods, homeless and living in Los Angeles, discovered something horrifying. Someone had accumulated $130,000 in debt using his identity. Woods did what any victim would do. He went to his bank to report the fraud and closed the accounts. This is where the story takes its darkest turn. When Woods entered the bank and presented his authentic California ID and Social Security card, the branch manager became suspicious. The accounts had significant funds, and Woods couldn't answer security questions about when and where they were opened. The bank called the Los Angeles Police Department. The police then contacted the phone number listed on the accounts. That number belonged to Matthew Kierans. Kierans, now faced with exposure after 3 decades, didn't confess. Instead, he doubled down in the most sinister way imaginable. He told police that he was the real William Woods and that this homeless man in California was trying to steal his identity. Kieran's faxed police a complete set of fraudulent documents, a Wisconsin driver's license, a Kentucky birth certificate, a social security card, all expertly forged with Woods' information but supporting Kieran's claim. The police, faced with what appeared to be ironclad documentation, believed Kieran's. William Woods was arrested and charged with identity theft and false impersonation. Think about that for a moment. A man trying to reclaim his own identity was arrested for stealing it. Woods spent 428 days in county jail. Throughout his incarceration, he insisted he was William Woods. His public defender, noting his unwavering insistence on his identity despite all evidence to the contrary, questioned his mental competence. In February 2020, a California judge ruled Woods was not mentally competent to stand trial. Woods was transferred to a state mental hospital, where he spent 147 additional days. There, against his will, he was administered psychotropic medications. All the while, he continued to insist on the truth. He was William Donald Woods. From his comfortable home in Wisconsin, Kieran's monitored the case closely. He contacted prosecutors multiple times, requesting updates. "I am the person who had their ed compromised," he wrote in one email. When Woods filed disputes on credit reports, Kieran's complained that he spent hours clearing them up and asked prosecutors for advice on next steps. In March 2021, after nearly 2 years of hell, Woods was forced to plead no contest to the felony charges in exchange for a time served sentence and immediate release. The court ordered him to pay a $400 fine. But here's the most Kafkaesque detail of all: the California court ordered Woods to use only his true name, Matthew Kieran's, going forward. William Woods was legally ordered to stop being himself. The unraveling most people would have given up. Most people would have accepted this nightmarish reality and tried to rebuild under whatever name they could. But William Woods refused to surrender his identity. After his release, Woods continued his fight. He contacted police in Heartland, Wisconsin, where Kieran's lived, but they didn't investigate. He filed another complaint in September 2022. Kieran's responded by calling Woods Matthew Kieran's and claiming his identity was still under threat. Then Woods discovered something crucial. He found out that the man living as him worked at the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. In January 2023, Woods contacted the hospital's security department. This time, his complaint reached someone who would listen. Enter Detective Ann Mallory of the University of Iowa Police Department. Initially, Mallory wasn't sure what to make of the case. Multiple law enforcement agencies had already dismissed California Bill, as Mallory would come to call him. A state court had already ruled against him. It would have been easy for Mallory to do the same, but Kieran's made a critical mistake. When Mallory contacted him about the allegations, Kieran's told the detective, "You're not going to be able to do anything. I'm sure you won't be able to get to the bottom of this since no one else has." That condescending dismissal motivated Mallory to dig deeper. Mallory requested identifying documents from both men. When examining Kieran's birth certificate, he noticed something odd. The middle name didn't match what Kieran's had been using. It was a red flag, and Mallory knew he needed definitive proof. He tracked down Woods' biological father in Kentucky and arranged for DNA testing. On July 17, 2023, investigators kept careful watch on Kieran's at his workplace. At 3:30 p.m., the arrest was made. Kieran's was taken to the University of Iowa Police Department. "Couldn't wait to see that right index finger," Mallory later recalled. The fingerprint was a dead match for what he had been investigating. During a 6-hour interview, Mallory presented Kieran's with the DNA evidence. The game was over. When confronted with undeniable proof, Kieran's finally confessed to the entire scheme. His words were simple and devastating. "Everything is gone. My life is over." Kieran's admitted to using Ancestry.com to obtain Woods' birth certificate. He confessed to maintaining the false identity for over 3 decades. He even admitted to providing fraudulent documents to California authorities to facilitate Woods' arrest and incarceration. The judge in California vacated Woods' conviction. After 35 years, William Donald Woods finally had his identity back. Justice and Aftermath. On January 31, 2025, Matthew David Kierans stood in the U.S. District Court in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, shackled and facing the consequences of his decades-long deception. Chief Judge C.J. Williams didn't mince words. He called Kierans' crimes egregious, callous, and Kafkaesque. The judge stated that Kierans had weaponized the criminal justice system to achieve his goals. Kierans was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison on charges of aggravated identity theft and making false statements to a credit union. He was ordered to pay $10,000 in fines and another $10,000 in attorney fees to his victim. If California attempted to collect the over $118,000 in mental hospital bills from Woods, Kierans would be responsible for paying them. William Woods stood outside the courthouse after sentencing and spoke to reporters. "I went to jail for nothing, for being myself," he said. "The truth is important, and now the truth is known." Detective Ian Mallory, who stood beside Woods that day, had unraveled one of the most complex identity theft cases in American history. His persistence in the face of Kierans' arrogance had saved an innocent man from a lifetime of being erased. This case raises disturbing questions about our justice system and identity verification. How could someone maintain a false identity for 35 years, passing background checks for high-security employment? How could a victim be jailed and institutionalized for insisting on the truth? How many other William Woods are out there, trapped in similar nightmares? Matthew Kierans built a life on lies, a family on fraud, and a career on another man's name. For 3.5 decades, he lived comfortably while his victim suffered. But in the end, the truth couldn't be buried forever. Dina doesn't lie, and one determined detective refused to give up on a homeless man named William Woods, who only wanted to be himself. If this story shocked you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the most unbelievable true crime cases. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on this case. Could something like this happen today? How can we better protect ourselves from identity theft? Let's discuss. Thanks for watching, and remember to always safeguard your personal information. You never know who might be trying to become you.